Ladies and gentlemen, it is said we spend 80 to 90% of our lives in buildings like these. So don't you think it is time we moved away from the design-centric building market to one that also performs well? To achieve this, what we need are performance-based standards that will put buildings to work to protect and enhance the lives of people and help commerce. And to deliberate on that, we have a very special session, Safer Infrastructure for Safer India. Moderating and taking the discussion forward would be Kajori Sen of CNN News 18.
We've talked quite significantly at this moment about what the challenges are. The question that needs to be raised now is, where is the legacy coming from? Where have the failures been? What we need to do to rectify them, and what we're going to do for the future. This is not just a matter of what we do today, it's a matter of what we do for tomorrow. Without further ado, I would like to invite our panelists to join me. Professor Chetan Vaidya, the Director of School and Planning and Architecture, New Delhi. R.K. Mishra, Head, Center for Smart Cities. We've got R.A. Venkatachalam, Vice President Public Safety of UL. We've got Navin Raheja, CMD Raheja Developers. And Brajeshwar Singh, former NHAI Chairman, Independent Director, NBCC and L&T. If safety has taken a back seat, which seems to, at least at this point, be the position that is generally taken, Mr. Singh, that raises the question, do we first fill the backlog, or do we then go ahead and look at the future? If we're saying that for 40, 50, 60 years, we've not prioritized something, then are we trying to fill up a backlog?
Yes, we are definitely trying to fill up a backlog. And I think you raised the question about what do we prioritize. We prioritize what we think is trendy. Let's take a small instance, electrical appliances. I can buy an appliance which is rated for its electrical efficiency, its energy efficiency. I can't buy an appliance which guarantees safety. Similarly, when I come to a building, I can buy space in a building which has got an environment green certificate. I wish I could buy space in a building which has got a certificate of safety from the structural point of view. All I have is a municipal piece of paper saying, yes, we inspected it, it complied with the norms. Those inspections can be very perfunctory. I can never buy space where somebody says, yes, I've tested the concrete had the strength, and I had sufficient steel in the concrete. So I think there is one question. In some cases, like environment or greenness, we are pressing ahead at full speed. At safety, we are pressing ahead at a much slower speed. And I think the other aspect is, what about the governance? Because even if you have the standards, do you have people who are going to enforce the standards? The last aspect I'll touch upon is, how professional are our builders? I feel very ashamed that we're a country where civil contractors could be anyone. You don't need a civil engineering degree. And we have, if the builders themselves were a professional group, we could think of having something along the lines of what we have for architects or doctors, where it's self-regulated. But builders could be anybody. They could be somebody with no background in civil construction. And this creates a huge hazard for this completely unregulated, open to entry kind of system we have.
Let me in fact go over now to Mr. Venkatachalam. It's not just up to the builders and the contractors. There's a larger ecosystem which needs to be held responsible. It's people who are looking at whether the fire systems are in place. It's people who are looking at whether the roads are in place. The ecosystem, where are we going to look at the building of that ecosystem? Where has it been historically and where is it now?
I think it boils down to one single point, and that is, there needs to be a regulatory push and there needs to be a consumer demand. Consumer demand comes from awareness. So first, speaking about the regulatory systems, we must ensure, going forward, up to today, what's happened, what's built, what's on the ground, we can't do much. We can inspect and make them compliant to a certain extent. But going forward, we can ensure that what we are building are to good standards. And that good can be defined for India. We can get together as a team. We have the capability to define that in India. For India, we can do that. That's about defining standards, ensuring compliance, obviously, in execution. Equally importantly, when consumers demand, that's when everything falls into place. So I believe both have to happen together, and that can happen. It has happened in other sectors. So it will happen here too.
And I think increasingly consumers are demanding. Urban spaces are places where people are getting increasingly aware of what they need and what they deserve. In that particular context, policies have to evolve accordingly. Professor, where do you think more policies need to come in? What do they specifically need to address?
I will just mention three things very briefly. One is that National Building Code is being revised, and there are more issues of sustainability and safety being put into this. Second is we really need to take a relook at our master plan process. That is something which has become extremely static and not linked to finances of the local body. So if we can build in the safety issue when we give the floor space index or TDR or other benefits, incentive or disincentive, as part of the master plan exercise, there is safety should be included. And all this would get reflected in our municipal building law. I think these are the three things which need to be changed and promoted with safety concerns.
So now that we've figured out where the policy gaps lie, let's talk about the implementation issues. Mr. Raheja, let me start with you. When it comes to the implementations of the policies which are already in place, do you feel that there are shortfalls?
I think more than ensuring implementation, it's about your own understanding, taking on responsibilities, and doing things on your own. If people are aware, then implementation is possible. But if you look at the regulation and then inspection, I don't think that can actually ensure, because we know our country very well. So I don't think that can actually ensure what is required to be done. What is more required to be done is awareness, responsibility, self, and even people taking it up with awareness.
Okay, let's now talk about the future, because really that's what the focus should be on. How do we plan for the future? How do we maximize safety? How do we build India in the image we want it to? And one of the messages that we are getting from the current government is that smart cities are going to be the future. The question that I asked when I heard that, and I'm going to put that question to Mr. Mishra, what's a smart city?
It is not about Wi-Fi's and routers and machines talking to the people and people talking to machines. It's not about that. Smart is a branding, and it's all about livable cities. Given that livable is not a very easy word to pronounce, and is not very trendy to say smart is being said. Our cities today are not livable. So whether it is about, and there are 3-4 aspects of living in a city. You live in your house, you go to your workplace, you have a place where you go for a health checkup, you go for shopping, you go for school. Smart city is a city which, in true sense, anticipates your need and makes your day-to-day life in city more pleasurable and enjoyable. And whatever it needs to be done, of course, you can use technology, you can have public transport, but smart is not about Wi-Fi's and routers alone.
Right. Now that we've got that definition, Mr. Vikrachala, any city planning is upon the government. The government has to give its citizens what they need. But smart cities are a space where the private sector may have a fairly significant role to play. In your opinion, how does that partnership have to look going forward?
As per the scheme rolled out for these smart cities, the private sector or entrepreneurial approach has to be an important ingredient and driving force, in fact. And we believe that the way we have seen the first 20 cities coming out, I've been closely interacting with some of them, starting with the number 1 in ranking, which is Bhubaneswar. What we find is that they are incorporating in their planning significant measures, metrics, ideas, opportunities where safety, sustainability, resilience, these factors are taken into account. And I would like to say that the people who are participating have an interest, because if the investments that they are making, if they have to be producing returns, they have to be safe, sustainable, resilient.
Right. Thank you, all of you, for joining us and participating in an overview of where India is today, where India was, and where India hopefully will be when it comes to being safe and smart.
Now, I'd like to call on stage Mr. Jagdish V, Head Business Unit, Building Materials UL, to deliver the vote of thanks.
We are all focused on certifications. We want a certificate, we want a compliance, we want an NOC. But as stakeholders in built environment safety, we need to set a minimum bar in which we need to focus and set our systems right to ensure that people living are safe. Safety is a journey. There is no end to safety. You just can't come and say that I have achieved what safety is there in my building. At UL, we are proud that we should create a need for demand for safety standards and ensure that all stakeholders take an important part in creating a safe building environment. Thank you, everyone.
Next week, we shift our focus to the technology sector, throwing light on providing safe, secure, seamless technology solutions in this era of Internet of Things. And if you have a story, opinion, or suggestion for us, please visit www.safetystandards.com.